Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, Sunnyvale. Welcome to October. You know, the days are getting a little cooler, definitely a lot shorter. And the holidays, of course, are just around the corner. You know, I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein, and welcome to my weekly office hours. Um, you know, about a year and a half ago, actually more than that, I converted my weekly office hours at Being Seen Downtown into this virtual session. And so today is the 81st installment. I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy. You know, we're 564 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. And I continue to have these sessions every week, and people, can still say they enjoy hearing from their mayor each week, whether they watch live or delayed. And these weekly sessions are good because they allow me to reflect on what's happened over the last few weeks, as well as provide you some updates and news, answer some of your questions, and just pass on some general words of encouragement. So I'm also following up my televised session here with an in-person meeting at the local coffee shop. So you can normally see me on Bean Scene or at Bean Scene on Murphy Avenue from around 9:15 to sometimes noon or even later. But thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale during, let's say, interesting times to say the least. A few months ago, I started changing my background art every week with art provided by Sunnyvale artists. And today's piece is called Monument Valley Sunset by Kataki Adi. So, if you want to purchase this piece, very lovely, colorful piece, if you want to purchase this piece, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the artist and you can have it for yourself. So let's go ahead and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. Last Wednesday, Washington Park Swim Center finally opened. So it's open limited right now, mainly for lap swim. So you can sign up and go take lap swim there. Definitely, I've already heard some people who have enjoyed the new facility. So happy to see that finally open after a while of getting that going. Last Wednesday, there was a funeral for Pat Castillo, who passed away recently. And I don't know, she was fairly well known in our community, of course. She was a former mayor, council member, very active. She was part of the Chamber of Commerce, Historical Society, Youth Sports, United Way, many organizations. But she was just a force of nature for so many years, both politically and socially. She fought for women's rights. She was really ahead of her time, environmentally and regarding land use to some degree. So a lot of the policies that we have in place now from a council standpoint were put in place by her and some of her fellow council members many, many years ago. So, she was an amazing person, good friend. She'll definitely be missed, and it was good to meet with a good number of Sunnyvale residents and console her family. And it was an inspiring, some inspiring speeches to hear, a remembrance of what she did for our community. So I was very thankful to be able to be in attendance as far as that's concerned. Last Thursday, Governor Newsom was in Sequoia National Park and signed a $15 billion climate package for California. And so this was kind of the largest investment of that type in the state's history. And so, California in recent months has been hit with, record-breaking heat, drought, wildfire season. It's burned more than, 2.3 million acres across the state. And so the bill had multiple components that were part of that package. It was $5.2 billion towards emergency drought relief projects. So expanding our state water supply is important. $1.5 billion went towards preventing wildfire risk in forests, clearing brush and dead trees that could ignite. 3.7 billion was for climate change risk in the state by investing in projects to mitigate extreme heat, like urban greening and the threat of sea level rise. And then 3.9 billion also went to buy zero emission school and transit buses and other state transportation vehicles. And so I think it was very positive from that standpoint. I think Sunnyvale in California are trying to be as environmentally positive as possible, and this is some definite funding that we're looking at to invest in local projects within our city. And then last Thursday, there was a virtual meeting to learn about changes on how the city is going to be reviewing housing projects, mainly, multifamily projects and mixed use housing. And a lot of that has to do with some of the state laws that went in place. And so Sunnyvale has to be not objective, but completely, or basically not objective, but all the standards need to be put in place to making them objective and not subjective. And so that's one of the big things from a city standpoint is, going through the process, there was a certain amount of architectural design that was left subjectively to staff and planning commission. But so there was a little bit of personal judgment, but some of the state requirements basically streamline the process, but allow developers to basically sue the city if they're conceivably objective standards. And so one of the things that we need to do is kind of make sure that all of our standards are completely objective, and that's one of the things that is really critical. So Sunnyvale is developing new standards, working with a team of planners and architects, and the goal is to have those standards to still support our diverse housing within Sunnyvale. But it's also important to make sure that we react to the appropriate state laws to maintain a certain amount of local control on what our expectations are when developers come in, and highlight our design priorities, and ultimately at the end of the day figure out how to apply those new standards in Sunnyvale, whether or not that's architecture or landscaping, modular design, form-based design. All those are critical as we move forward. And then on Sunday, midday, there was a moving celebration on Caltrain, so I joined for a while from here to Mountain View, at least, but it was to commemorate the passage of last year's Measure RR. Because of the pandemic, we definitely weren't able to have any real celebrations last year, and so finally this year, people came together along that route to celebrate the Measure RR passage. And so, that was the 2020 ballot measure that provided long-term funding from Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, and San Francisco County, as opposed to kind of the up and down numbers that were being provided previously from the different counties. And so, from a funding standpoint, it was mainly supported through tickets, and then the rest through the counties. But because there wasn't that long-term revenue stream, there were questions about long-term investments in different projects along that rail line. And so it was good to ride the train a little bit, although it was a relatively short trip. It was good, meeting and celebrating with some of those people that really worked towards passing Measure RR. I spoke to many people last year, making sure that got on the ballot as well as move forward, and was happy to see that was successful, during the November elections. On Tuesday of this week, council met, and we went a little bit past midnight. And the evening started out with a proclamation recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And, breast cancer affects approximately 1 in 8 women during their lifetimes. And, the importance of mammography, as well as early detection, and is critical at the end of the day. You know, it's important because at that point, the earlier you find them, those tumors are most likely treatable. And in recent years, we've actually seen a decline in breast cancer fatalities throughout the U.S., mainly due to early detection. So that was good to kick off the evening with that proclamation as far as October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And then as far as general business, we spent the majority of the evening on a proposal to remove specific parking along Sunnyvale Avenue and install bike lanes from Maud Avenue to Hendy. And so what this basically did was remove the east side parking from Maud to Arquez, and then it removed all parking on both sides of the street from Arquez to Hendy, or really California and Hendy, because between Arquez and California, there wasn't parking already. But there was a lot of public comment and letters on both sides of the issue. A lot of this goes back to council policies on safety. We have Vision Zero priorities, and then of course our Sunnyvale Complete Streets policy. Our active transportation plan identified certain projects as we try to make sure that more people do active transportation, walking, biking, scooters, whatever those happen to be. And that's our goal for our active transportation plan that was approved last year. Has a goal for 10% of active transportation share by 2030. So for all those trips that you're doing, walking or biking, that's one of our goals. But at the end of the day, it's looking at, child safety and safe transportation for children, and buffered bike lanes are a big improvement. There's no way to really add an all ages, all ability facility to Sunnyvale Avenue without, removing some of that on-street parking. So, that's one of the things that multiple residents were talking about. I'll do sharos and something of that nature, and we'll talk about some emails that I received later. But ultimately, Sunnyvale Avenue was kind of a critical section in south to north and north to south bike transportation within Sunnyvale. So we have bike lanes from on Borregas from Maud all the way into Moffett Park. And then we have bike lanes on Sunnyvale and Sunnyvale Saratoga from Evelyn going farther south. And ultimately, this was kind of that missing segment in that spine of north and south within the city. And so, ultimately, council did approve the removal of that parking along the east side of Sunnyvale Avenue between that Maud and Arquez area, and then the area farther south as far as that's concerned. Let's see, we also approved evaluating 2 general plan amendments, and developers come to us we make it available every quarter, but it probably happens every six months to a year. The developers come through and do a request for changing, evaluating, updating the general plan. And so our general plan is the description for all the zoning, all the different zoning within the city, whether or not that's housing, commercial, office space, or public facilities, all that. The general plan kind of lays out the vision for the city. And sometimes it's long-term, industrial to residential. So like the old AMD campus used to be industrial. And along the way, council rezoned that area as potential residential going into the future. And so, even though that land had been rezoned, it was actually, still valid commercial zoning, industrial zoning for many, many years. And then when the developer came through, or when the existing tenants decided to move out, then at that point it became, a question of whether or not they converted it into office space or converted it into residential or kept it as existing use. So that's the long-term vision. We had 2 locations that we're looking at. One is looking at an applied materials research campus on Arquez near Gwendolyn. And so this is just basically just east of kind of the Apple campus at Central and Wolf along Arquez there. And so it's about 63 acres that Applied Materials has collected over the years, but they already have, a research facility there. They're basically looking to reinvest and upgrade those facilities and kind of conglomerate some of their different buildings around the Bay Area into that location. So ultimately, we decided to go ahead and study that. And then the second location that we looked at was housing commercial at the Wendy's on Wolf Road. And so, those studies are ultimately paid for by developers. And so we approved looking at both of those studies. The Wolf Road one was basically an empty lot that's been empty for about 30 years, more than 30 years now. The Wendy's, as well as looking at the gas station on the corner of Fremont Avenue and Wolf Road. And so, that will go forward, but all those studies are paid for by developers who want the city to evaluate that land use, and it isn't, ultimately it isn't preordained that those land changes will be done, but it's going through doing the study and then bringing it back to council on whether we actually rezone those locations at the end of the day. Let's see what, and then on Wednesday, yesterday, it's been a busy week, President Biden signed the Congress stopgap funding bill to avert a shutdown that would have happened at midnight. And so it kind of extended government funding through December 3rd. And so, government funding had been set to expire on midnight. The bill passed the House and the Senate early in the day with, bipartisan vote. This is the ongoing, issues within Congress that happen every few years. Of course, there's also the upcoming battle about raising the debt ceiling that will happen October 18th. So that's upcoming also. And then, yesterday there was also kind of a stalemate regarding the infrastructure bill. And so, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi basically decided not to put the $3.5 trillion climate and infrastructure bill on the floor because she didn't have the votes, and she knew that. This was, after some progressives basically rebelled, potentially delaying consideration until the Democrats strike a deal on kind of separate but the larger social safety net and climate legislation. So ultimately, it's mixing that infrastructure with the climate legislation and other kind of other social safety net issues. And so pulling basically the infrastructure bill, which was pretty much approved bipartisan, with the reconciliation bill, and trying to get them both through simultaneously has been, let's say, difficult for Congress to get agreement on. So ultimately, we'll see how that goes. It's been quite a while from that standpoint on trying to see progress being made. Last night, City Council, there was a Redistricting Commission about redistricting the City Council districts, and that was mainly about map training and map making. If you missed that, it was recorded, but it's basically learning about how to use the tools, and these are the same tools that we used about 2 years ago when we were setting up the first 6 districts from a Sunnyvale City Council district standpoint. If you want to learn more, if you want to watch the video, you can go to sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting and get more information as far as that's concerned. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. COVID cases are stabilizing a bit around the U.S. From a national standpoint, we've now had 43.3 million cases. That increased about 800,000 in the last week but that's down from 1 million a week ago. So we are seeing a slow downturn in the number of new cases, and then we've had almost 214 million people vaccinated with at least one dose. That's 77% of adults, and almost 67, no, yeah, about 67% of adults are fully vaccinated around the U.S. From a death toll standpoint, we had another 14,000 this past week, so we've had 694,000 deaths related to COVID-19. From a California standpoint, we've had 4.4 million positive cases. Our daily caseload right now is about 6,500 new cases. That's down from 8,500 new cases last week. So that's trending downward too. We've had, 68, almost 69,000 fatalities. It's about 800 deaths just in the last week. And then on a positive note, of course, we've had about 49 million vaccines administered. That's slowing down a bit, but the big thing is we're from on a state by state basis, we're back at number 10. We were at number 9 last week, but 85.5% of adults have at least one dose, and we're back to number 16 on states with fully vaccinated residents. Adults basically at 70.4%. So 70%, over 70% of adults within California have at least are fully vaccinated. And then from a county standpoint, our cumulative case rate continues to go up a little bit. We have 141,000, about 1,200 new cases in the last week of confirmed cases of COVID-19. We've had another 23 deaths at 1,797, almost 1,800 deaths now. But our vaccination rates continue to look good. 88.7% of those 12 and older, not just adults, have at least one dose, and 83.8% of those 12 and older are fully vaccinated. So it's really good from that standpoint. I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, especially at the county level, talking to our county supervisors, talking to county health. From a testing standpoint, if you need to get tested, all you need to do is go to sccfreetest.org, and you can see all the locations around the county where you can get tested. And then as far as getting vaccinated, you can always go to sccfreevax.org to find out all those locations. There will be a vaccination site here in Sunnyvale today from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Our Daily Bread. So that's at St. Thomas Episcopal Church on Sunset Avenue, right next to Washington Park, and that's kind of being done with Our Daily Bread. And they provide, Our Daily Bread is providing free lunch or free meals. It's basically takeaway meals. And they've been doing that for about 35 years, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for anyone who wants to attend. And so you can go there on Sunset Avenue, and you can get your vaccination also. And it's also available to get third dose vaccinations are available for those that are eligible. So you can do that. And then you can also, there'll also be a pop-up vaccination clinic at El Dorado Mobile Home Community, and that'll be happening on Saturday, October 23rd. So that's upcoming later in the month, and I'll have more information on the hours of that as we get closer to that date. Next, I wanted to announce some of the upcoming events happening. This weekend, of course, is the Sunnyvale Arden Wine Festival, the 47th annual, although we kind of missed last year. But it's really good to have that event that brings people, mainly the community, together. Some people from the surrounding community, but it'll be art from both local artists as well as art from around California. There will be, wine, beer, and margaritas to help some of the nonprofit organizations. There'll be music, and it's kind of different. It won't be, music bands playing all day long both days. There will be entertainment. There will be basically DJ, both, playing music all day, both days, but there'll be a live band each day at 3 p.m. So there'll be other smaller events and, hands-on and craft events for kids. But the big thing is, that big event at 3 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. So definitely, downtown will be a little more active. Parking will be difficult this weekend, and then of course the farmers market is not happening this weekend. They tried to have it at the Caltrain station, but ultimately decided to postpone it. So you won't be able to see your normal downtown vendors this weekend. Next week is Fleet Week in San Francisco, and not really directly affecting, although you will see a lot of planes overhead. A lot of them use Moffett Field as staging places. So definitely you'll see a lot of planes landing, into and taking off from Moffett Field over the coming week, and we've already started seeing it this week. And let's see, October 30th, there will be a Diwali event at the Sunnyvale Community Center. Diwali is the Festival of Lights, and it kind of coincides with the harvest and, the New Year celebrations for some communities. But it's ultimately, that triumph of light over darkness. And the last year has been very difficult, so I think it's good to have that celebration, and hopefully this will become an annual celebration that we will have here in Sunnyvale. We've had, thanks to the Friends of the Sunnyvale Library and the library organization, we've had multiple events in the past, but this is actually being brought together by a local group, a group of residents that are getting together saying, this is something we want to have here in Sunnyvale, and I've been helping them kind of work through some of the issues and get some of the, get that going within our community, and look forward to possibly having this move forward for many, many years to come. Sunday, October 31st is the Halloween Pet Parade. So you can go to sunnyvalepetparade.com and learn more information as far as that's concerned, and sign up. So ultimately it'll be that Sunday mid-morning from Redwood Square down Murphy, ending up in Plaza del Sol. A little bit smaller than it was 2 years ago, but ultimately I was happy to celebrate Halloween and have, the kids and people dress up their pets for the holiday. And then of course in November, ice skating is returning to Sunnyvale, and so that will happen November 19th through January 2nd, and that will be in the Macy's parking lot along Washington Avenue, and we'll have more information available as we get closer to that date. So looking forward to lots of events that are coming up in the fall here. It is as we get closer to the holidays, lots of events throughout the Bay Area that are occurring, whether or not that's in Sunnyvale, Cupertino. I went to a Dilly Hot festival in Memorial Park in Cupertino last weekend, and it was actually good to see people out celebrating. This was kind of a taste of India in Memorial Park. This was a kind of a duplication, or let's say a microcosm of what the market is in Delhi, in India. And it was good to see, arts and crafts and food, and, having lots of dancers and music, kind of celebrating, kind of getting through COVID is part of it, but having people celebrate their culture, I think was a lot of fun. And I think that's something that we can definitely replicate here in Sunnyvale, which we're working on from a city standpoint. So we'll see where things go as far as that's concerned, and how quickly we can have kind of a cultural celebration here in Sunnyvale. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Kathleen asked, why did City Council not consider Sharrows on North Sunnyvale Avenue, just between Arquez and Taylor? There have been 0 bicycle pedestrian accidents in this section. Currently between El Camino Real and Evelyn, there are many different styles of bike lanes along Sunnyvale Avenue. Why not make this one modification to the BPAC plan? Keeping on-street parking, wouldn't that be for the greater good? So I totally understand, Kathleen, what certain residents wanted from a Shero standpoint, and in general, we're trying to make biking safe for people of all abilities and all ages, and the best way that we can do that is bike lanes. So the concept of switching between bike lanes and Sheros and back to bike lanes in different sections doesn't really make sense. The long-term goal where we can do it is adding bike lanes, and especially protected bike lanes if we can, depending upon what the width of the street is as far as that's concerned. And this was the goal of the active transportation plan last year. And making buffered bike lanes in this section really, I really appreciated what staff did as far as evaluating the number of parking spots on the street that are open on both the east and west sides, evaluating the number of cars that are actually there. And one of the things about that area is, it's like creating that close to Bishop Elementary, creating protected bike lanes, as opposed to having, kids go into the middle of the street and then, be on a bike lane and then cut into the middle of the street and then back to bike lanes. Really wasn't for their safety, especially right next to the school there. But and if you look at different areas through the years, we've put bike lanes in certain areas. Now, as we're going back and restriping, of course, we're looking at wherever we can, increasing that barrier between cars and bikes as much as possible. And adding Sheros on a specific block really wouldn't have made sense from an overall standpoint of kids, parents, people of all abilities, commuters, traveling north and south through Sunnyvale as far as that's concerned. Agnes asked also about Sunnyvale Avenue bike lanes. I'm wondering why the option of slowing the street down was not considered. So, definitely slowing down traffic only partially helps on bike safety. Bike lanes are really the best way to make people feel safe to ride, especially children. Definitely if bikes and cars are sharing the same lane, it always, is more unsafe for riders, whether or not it's cars, being right behind them, making bicyclists feel unsafe, or things of that nature. It's getting them off the main street as much as possible and into a bike lane where they can feel a lot safer. And I think I've talked to a lot of parents who wouldn't let their kids bike along that area, mainly because they were worried about that interaction with cars. And there are commuters that are completely fine with sharing those lanes with people, or sharing bike commuters sharing those lanes with cars. That being said, it feels a lot more safe, and slowing the traffic down only helps to a certain degree. Ultimately there will be speeders, there will be people that don't follow those speed limits, and creating those barriers, creating those areas where people feel a lot safer and are kind of separated is one of the best things we can do as far as making it safe for riders at the end of the day. Sean asked, today I learned that Tapped and Nomburger are both closing due to increased rent and landlord issues. Is one of my favorite places in downtown Sunnyvale, and a local one-of-a-kind business owned and operated by a female minority. This is doubly sad. I know the mayor and council cannot meddle in private business matters, but I'm eager to know what Sunnyvale is doing to prevent small business closures and make our city special. So yeah, for those of you that didn't know, Sunday, so this Sunday, October 3rd, is the last day for both Nomburger and Tapped. I went to lunch there earlier this week to say goodbye. I'm hoping that Regina can find another location here in Sunnyvale sometime in the future. But it was a mixture of rent and staffing issues, and I really love that outdoor patio area that they provided. I liked it when it was prolific oven, but it was what Regina and reimagined that space as well for as Naumburger and Tapped has been really good for the city especially as far as that location is concerned, and really missing seeing that going. As far as the city is concerned, Sunnyvale's been doing a lot for small businesses. During COVID, we had our Sunnyvale Cares program, which gave grants and not loans. Some cities just did, loans. But we gave grants of about $3 million in city and donated funds to small businesses to cover, rent and inventory, payroll, personal protective equipment. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to provide, and the Small Business Association to provide seminars. One of those was helping businesses renegotiate past rent. We just had, several of the last few weeks on your online presence and how to make search better. But all those are things that we do to try to help our small businesses. But at the end of the day, it has been difficult, and not like we can't force landlords from increasing their rent, and we can only hope that especially during COVID, they see the importance of maintaining business there is far more important than just getting as much in rent as they can. So sorry to see them go. While you're at the Arden Wine Festival this weekend, definitely say goodbye to the staff, say goodbye to Regina if you get a chance. Susan asked, what roads will be closed for Arden Wine Festival this weekend? So it's a little bit like the farmers market setup. So Washington and South Francis will be closed, but they'll also be closing Sunnyvale from Evelyn to McKinley. A certain amount of the parking, like at Macy's, will be utilized for the vendors that are there that'll be displaying. But so it'll be a little difficult to find parking. Definitely there'll be some of the old parking, but that'll be open. But definitely consider looking around, the underground parking at Plaza del Sol, or the parking garages at City Line along Francis next to Whole Foods. All those are always available. So definitely, come downtown. Hopefully you'll be able to enjoy that. And then, of course, there'll be restaurants. A lot of the downtown restaurants are providing fast to go lunches for those that just want to grab and go. But it should be good from that standpoint to grab a drink or grab food, enjoy the art, enjoy the wine, enjoy some music. Should be pretty good as far as that's concerned. Manaz asked, do you know if the vendors at this festival are going to be the same group as at the Arden Wine Festival in Mountain View a few weeks ago? Checked in with the chamber who's organizing the event. Definitely there will be some artists who were at the Mountain View Festival, but there will be a lot of new artists as well as a lot of local artists that will be displaying. So definitely come and check out some of the local artists. As you know, I'm a very big fan of local art, and so definitely you can meet some of the artists, some of the local artists there, and see some of what they've made. Susan asked, any update on our Target store reopening? So that the contractors submitted their building permits. Most of those have been approved. Staff and you see that construction has started up. I don't have a confirmed timeline on when they'll be reopening, but it should be by Thanksgiving, if not sooner. So keep your fingers crossed as far as that's concerned. A lot of people are missing having our Target open. It wasn't seen as a big box store. For a lot of people, it was seen as just a neighborhood store. I need something, I'll just drop in and grab one or two items and go. So it was good from that standpoint, and hopefully it will be reopened before the holidays, to say the least. Doug asked, when is REI opening? So there's no exact date yet, but it should be, looks like sometime in November. They have finished the external work on the store, so the construction fences came down earlier this week. The lighting is inside the store now. They are hiring, so they're working on the interior. So it should be soon. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that opening, providing more options within our city. And I like REI definitely is a regional draw, so it will bring in people from some of the surrounding cities to visit our REI store. So it's good from that standpoint also. Uh, Looking forward to their grand opening, and I've seen some of the things that they've done with the outside of the reconstruction of kind of the entranceways going into the building look really good. A lot more opening, a lot more welcoming and open, and then some of the interior lighting, some of the much bigger glass windows, making that interior feel a lot better. So looking forward to seeing that. Hugo asks, why do Sunnyvale City projects take so long? Washington Pool, Fair Oaks Bridge, etc. As I said before, government moves slowly, and partially this is because of our outreach process. We don't just quickly approve projects, but also there's a bid process. We take bids. We have qualified bids that take a while before they come in. But we go through community input. We get funding. We do final design. We bid for construction, and then finally do the implementation. So all that takes a while, especially when it's multi-jurisdictional. So like the Fair Oaks Bridge, that had to deal with the Caltrain tracks and tearing down the old pedestrian bridge, and working with Caltrain on when they wanted our construction crews accessing that area, working below the bridge, doing infrastructure changes. So all that takes a little bit more from getting the project approved. Ultimately, it is slow at times, but I would like to go faster. But that process also makes sure that we just don't waste the city's money, or don't get halfway through a project and then get stalled out because there are jurisdictional issues that oh, you didn't get appropriate approval, so we're not going, we're going to stop the project, and then the project sits there. So definitely it doesn't move as quickly as people would like, and nor I would like, but it's important to kind of follow a prescribed process at the end of the day. Let's see, any other questions? Let's see. Will the city put in east to west crosswalk at Taylor for safe crossing for residents that lose parking at Sunnyvale Avenue? So yeah, so definitely I talked to the city manager, much like we have been talking to the Stale neighborhood. So one of the things that we approved Tuesday night was multiple improvements along Borregas, along Morris Avenue, making it safer to go to schools. So basically Columbia Middle. And one of the things that I did talk to the city manager about was adding a crosswalk there at Taylor to make it easier for school crossing for kids going to Bishop Elementary. So definitely that's one of the things that we're constantly looking at, reevaluating where we do crosswalks. Ultimately, the positive thing about that is it will only be 2 lanes of traffic, and so that is one of the best things, as far as it makes it easier for people to cross. There doesn't necessarily need to be crosswalks at every intersection within the city if it's generally safer, because it's a 2-lane road and traffic is relatively slow. But that is one of the things that I did talk to the city manager about. Staff will be evaluating putting sidewalks at Taylor and Sunnyvale to make it safer, kind of at that south end, as far as that's concerned. I don't see any other questions. So let's go ahead and wrap up. You know, thank you for joining me again this week. I'm really proud of our city, especially over the last year and a half. You know, residents have helped others, whether or not that's collecting food, collecting clothes, helping them with, you know, deliveries of medicine and picking up groceries, but just pulling together to help others in our community. You know, the future continues to be uncertain. You know, we're entering back in the winter, and you know, new variants come up, but those new issues come up, but almost every day. But people's actions really do make a difference. You know, Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. You know, we're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.